Thanks for joining us on the Winning at Selling podcast. I'm Professor Scott Plum of the Minnesota Sales Institute, and with me is Bill Hellkamp of Reach Development Systems.
Before you create a contact list, attempt to prospect, or go to an appointment, you may want to take a few hours to make sure you are contacting the right people and talking to them about things that matter. Many salespeople don't do this and waste time and resources going after prospects who can't or won't buy from them. So let's learn why it doesn't pay to round up the usual suspects as Scott and I discuss Sales Process Part 1 Strategy and other great ideas on episode 461 of the Winning at Selling podcast.
So before we get to our topic on strategy, we're going to cover our book club, and we're studying the book, Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. And this is published by the Franklin Covey organization. And last week we covered beliefs 2 and 3, and then we had Joe Pine. So if you had a chance to listen to that, we're grateful for your
Great
feedback.
Interview.
What did you take away? What are you going to use today? How is it going to change the way that you sell and interact with prospects, clients, and customers? We always love your feedback. And today we're going to cover beliefs 3, 4, and 5. And these are just as important. I mean, this is really a powerful chapter. We won't get into too much detail because a lot of the book is going to carry out a little bit greater detail of these beliefs. So we're going to kind of go through them and title them, and hopefully it's intriguing enough for you to pick up the book or continue to listen to future episodes. And again, we're always grateful for your feedback, comments. So go to the website winningatselling.com and give us your feedback. Belief number 3, solutions have no inherent value. And this is a profound statement. And some people are like, what? What does that mean? I thought solutions offer value. I thought that's what we sell as value. Well, we have to keep in mind that prospects define value, and a solution has no value unless it sticks to a problem. So solutions derive value only for the problems they solve that people care about and or from producing results that people highly value. That's the definition of that belief, Bill. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I thought it was interesting that he said, ask yourself, why might this not have value? Well, it's too early in the process, or it doesn't have a good connection, or you're solving a problem that they don't define highly, or, there's all these things that could come in the way of your attempt at creating value before it's ready. And I think it's so important to really make sure that you are giving that solution when you know something. And too many salespeople go off too early.
Yeah, I think a good rule for salespeople is don't say anything. Don't talk unless you have something to say.
Right. I just did a talk on the 7 deadly sins of selling, and trying to go to the solution too quickly really takes away the value of the solution. If they have a problem they've been dealing with for years and you think you solved it in a 5-minute conversation, you just took any value out of your solution.
Yeah. I think another good line out of this particular part is how you sell is a free sample of how you solve.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to go through a process of assessment and then being able to prescribe a solution based on an assessment. And the prospect knows that what we're prescribing, suggesting, sticks to the problem that they have, not the problem that the last prospect had or some other person had. It's their problem, and they feel that it's important enough to change and fix and work on for a different outcome.
Right. These companies, I've been dealing with this for years, and you come in and in a half-hour conversation, you present what you think is a solution. I just have to laugh that you think that you know so much about my company, and I've lied to you about half of what I told you already. So maybe your solution might not be on target considering what I've told you.
Right. Prospects will always put themselves in the best light, and you have to really kind of screen whether or not they're being completely honest with you. I always say you're not lying, you're just not a faithful historian. You're just not sharing the history accurately.
And I'm not willing to tell you everything
until
we've developed some trust. And I know he talks about trust a lot. It's going to be a big deal here. We need to find a level of trust so we can agree that we're moving toward a solution we both value. And I think that's the next point he's making, the next key belief.
Yeah. So number 4 is methodology matters. The order model, and we're going to go through what each letter of order stands for. But it's really this particular section talks about critical thinking skills, communication skills, execution skills, all create the value proposition.
Yeah, that's a nice graphic he's got on page 17 on my book.
Yeah, it is.
And he really talks about this well. I think we want to get into execution real quickly, and we're not thinking and we're not communicating well.
Right. Another point that they make is that they can help integrate sophistication with simplicity. If it's too sophisticated, it will not be used. And if it's too simple, it will not make a difference. Another great illustration about how things have to be simple and sophisticated. And the more time that we put into creating a solution, I think the more accurate it is based on that particular problem.
Well, I think this opportunity model, especially the early steps of it, are going to tie in well to the strategy we're going to talk about later. I think we'll find that we're going to track really well with our 10 steps of selling, along with what he's talking about in this book. So I'm really excited about the synergy that it's going to create between the book and between our conversations.
Yeah. So you mentioned opportunity, Bill, and opportunity is the O in order. So each of these letters in the word order stands for a word. So opportunity is the O. You cannot help someone succeed who has no perceived needs or wants, no pain, no gain, no opportunity. And sometimes when we're cold calling people and we just assume that everybody has a problem and everybody wants to fix it, and everybody wants to hire us and everybody wants to pick our solution, is just flat out being assumptive. And that's not really an opportunity.
Well, and everybody isn't our customer. And that's the thing we have to look at. I think it helps us as salespeople if we can get rid of the ones that aren't a high probability of success. So the opportunity can be part of that.
So the R stands for resource. Even if there is a substantial opportunity, we cannot help someone succeed who has insufficient resources. So we must examine time. When are they hoping to see the results in place? We need to look at people. Which people, resources are they willing to commit? And then M is for money. M is not an acronym, but money.
M is always for money.
Oh, I'm in a groove here. Money, what level of investment is appropriate for the desired results? So that's the R for resources.
Yeah, really are they willing to put in, is the customer willing to put some effort into this as well? We can't drop all this into the salesperson's lap and say, okay, well, you provide a solution and now we don't have to do anything. You just have to make this, hum for us. Helping the customer understand what they're going to have to do is important for making the solution come true at the end.
And I think that there's one thing that I think is overlooked when it comes to sales advice, sales training advice. I mean, we've always talked about time and money when we talk about prospects. Another thing that's really important is people. And I find that this is a big challenge for prospects when they come to implementing a solution is, do you have the people to be able to work on implementing this system, this solution into your daily behavior, into the company, the incorporating it into the whatever product or service you're offering. And I think it's a great question that really shows that you as a salesperson is really thinking about what's best for your prospect is. I'm kind of curious, who are you going to involve when it comes to implementing this?
And that's part of the decision, right? So that starts to come to the decision of the D.
D is decision. How will the decision be made and by whom?
Right.
Who is going to be the decision maker?
And we don't want to find that out. We just think whoever we're talking to is the decision maker.
Well, sometimes they're an influencer. Sometimes they want to be in control. Sometimes they want to be the champion and bring it to somebody else that's going to say, well done, faithful and loyal servant.
Right.
But we need to be conscious of, are we talking to a person that makes a decision, or are we talking to people that implement and carry out other people's decisions? And
even if we find a decision maker, how do they make decisions?
Yeah.
Are they an economic buyer? Are they a technical buyer? What's important to them in making this decision? And I think that's something we avoid too, is learning what type of a decision they are going to make.
Yeah. And they have a great illustration on the page. It says, what are all the steps? What decisions get made at each step? When will they be decided upon? Who will be involved in each step, and who will each decision maker decide? How will they make that decision? What is the criteria that they're going to follow? And I think one question that we really need to ask is, what criteria are you looking for when it comes to making a decision like this?
Right.
You have that's the specs, that's the details. And if you don't have the understanding of the criteria, then you're guessing. You're really guessing as to when you're proposing stuff.
All right. So that's decision.
So the E is for exact solutions or enable decisions. Will they do it with us? What is our solution? Given the client situation, what are the reasons for adopting our solution that makes sense? And how can we effectively advocate for our solution and enable good decisions? Are two questions that we need to ask and think of.
Yeah. Again, the goal is that exact solution. And the more work we can do, the more trust we can build, the closer we can get to that exact solution. And it just takes work, especially if it's a big sale. If this isn't a bundle of safety glasses, it's kind of different if it's going to affect the company's future in a more vibrant way.
Yeah. And the last one is R is for results. Will they move with us? Will they decide to work with us? So we need to think of, yes, how will we deliver and measure the desired results? How do we build and grow a value-based relationship? Or no, how do we learn and improve through understanding where our solution did not meet the client's needs better than other options? So they might have looked at other options.
Yep.
They might do it themselves. They might pick somebody else.
Right.
Or
so that begs the question: do you do any kind of a recap about sales losses? Or do you just go, well, they were this way and they didn't like us?
Yeah, they don't know what they're doing. There's
and
just
then we
all
grumble
confused,
and we move on and we don't learn anything from a loss.
So debriefing after every conversation you have, what did you do well? And if you had a chance to do it over, what would you do different?
Right.
And another result is a maybe. It's no decision. So how do we co-develop a means for the client to feel comfortable making an explicit, concrete decision, either yes or no? So we really need to go, when you say maybe, or you want to think it over, what is it that you're really concerned about?
Right.
What's holding you back from making a decision today? Is it you need to talk to somebody else? You need to look at allocating different resources? Are you looking at other options? I'm kind of curious, where are we in the decision-making process?
Right. So this order model is big, and I know we're going to go into a lot of detail, but even in this chapter, there's some really great visual resources. So if you haven't gotten the book yet, this is the book, Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. And it's the copy with the two people walking away on it. It's the latest revision. So we just can't explain all of these great graphics that he's using, these great visuals that help you understand these concepts better.
So that was belief number 4. Belief number 5 is world-class inquiry precedes world-class advocacy. And they describe that successful business development is a balance between inquiry and advocacy. So we really need to balance the two.
But we don't do that often in sales, do we?
Well, there's different ways of doing it.
I think we get ahead of ourselves and we start to, he has 3 other suggestions of what we do here. And I like the first one. We tell.
Yeah.
We start to blather on about how wonderful we are and how great our solution is and how we have offices all over the world. And let me show you my slide deck.
Yeah, and they add that telling, however, has a low probability of producing a solution that the client feels exactly meets their needs.
Oh, but if I show them my slide deck, Scott, because the marketing developed it, they're just going to want to buy from us because we are so great.
And my boss is going to ask, did you show them the slide deck?
Yeah, because we spent a lot of money on that slide deck, which doesn't have any spot in it for asking questions, by the way.
Right. Yeah. What's the next one, Bill?
We accept. So they think that because they said, yeah, we're going to do something, it's going to be successful. And instead of really inquiring and going into the depth about how the solution can be an exact solution, we get all fired up because they say they're going to buy something.
I love this part in the section. It says, how many times have we won an engagement, given the clients exactly what they wanted and still
what they said they wanted,
and still end up with an unhappy client?
Yep.
I think, I use the word unreferenceable client in the past episode. And that's what we end up getting is we get an unreferenceable client. Somebody, we did everything they wanted, but for some reason there was a misprescription along the way. And I think that's up to us to say, is this a fit for us? Do we really want to do this?
Yep. And the last one he says is we guess. We think we've diagnosed and assessed and done a correct analysis. But if it's too early and we haven't gotten honest answers, if we don't get honest answers from the client, and really dig into what they're doing. Is there any way that we're going to have a solution that's an exact fit?
And I love this part of it. It says, and we can always tell how much guessing, the more we guess, the longer the proposal, which is so true. I just throw a lot of information out there or show them how much I know. And boy, I think they'll pick something in there that they'll say yes to it. We've got a deal.
That's right.
That's not right.
Always. And sometimes they do, because they're begging for a solution. And yet, again, if the solution isn't going to meet the needs, we're going to really lose in the long run.
Yeah. And the last part of this particular belief, they say that, the fourth approach is mutual exploration, which is what they're really advocating for, which is, first, it would appear that it takes more time. However, the authors assert that mutual exploration does not take more time. It uses time differently and more effectively. If we do not have a solution that meets the client's needs, it is more time effective and cost effective to find that out early than later. And then second, imagine the downside, that if we find that we do not have a solution that truly meets the needs of the clients, it's better to lose the sale earlier, but you can't lose something that you don't have. So we don't want to work with somebody that's not a good fit for us, because again, we're going to have an unreferenceable client.
Yep. So if you are not committed to mutual exploration, to really finding out the needs of the client, maybe this book isn't for you.
And that's how they end the chapter. So it's not too late to pick up the book. Let's get real, or let's not play. And stay tuned for more topics on this.
Absolutely. Next week, qualifying overview. So it's going to really track well.
This segment has been brought to you by the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program, presented by your host of Winning at Selling Podcast. Every professional athlete has a coach, someone to assist and advise. Tiger Woods had 4 swing coaches so that he could stay at the top of his game. What would you like to improve or overcome in the next year? Perhaps as a salesperson, you want to be more productive with your prospecting, overcoming objections, or delivering more effective presentations. As a sales manager, you want to create a spark within your sales team with a new message, a refreshed approach to starting new conversations with the prospects, or you are looking for market-ready strategies to increase revenue and shorten the sales cycle with your existing team. Or as a business leader, you want to transform the sales culture and your value proposition for the new marketplace. Whatever your reason, this is the perfect time to engage with an experienced sales coach. That is why your hosts of Winning at Selling Podcast, Professor Scott Plum and Bill Hellkamp, have developed the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Now you can receive personal coaching from the same sales professionals you enjoy on this podcast. It all starts with a discussion to give us insights into your specific goals, challenges, needs, and motivation. Go to winningatselling.com to contact Bill or Scott about the Jumpstart Sales Coaching Program. Do you believe you deserve better results? Now is the time to invest in yourself, your people, and your customers, and invest in your future.
Well, we're excited to start this next round of conversations, and it's all about the sales process. We have a 10-step sales process, and part 1 is today, strategy. And I want to talk a little bit as we get started, in my mind, what strategy versus tactics. We always hear strategy and tactics, and I like to simplify it. Scott likes to complicate it. So we'll listen to mine and then Scott's.
Mine is sophisticated. Yours is simple. You can
determine whether his makes any sense at all. So strategy is your overall plan for business. Who you're going to talk to, when you're going to approach them, why do we have the best solution? What is our sales process? And thinking about, from a strategic standpoint, where are we going as a business? And I think for each salesperson, your territory is your business. So you need to think of a strategy for your territory. If you're a company owner, you need to think of a strategy in broader terms. And actually, that's what Scott wants to talk about. When we think about tactics, this is what we do when we're in the battle, right? What is our process? What step are we in the process? Are we going to do good discovery? Are we going to overcome objections? The order model that we just talked about. These are the tactics, the things that we're going to do when we're actually in with the client. When we're on the phone call, what questions are we going to ask? What are we going to say? How are we going to overcome their objections to get the deal? So that's a difference in my mind between strategy and tactics. So when I talk about it, I'm going to talk from the salesperson standpoint, but Scott, I'll give you a chance to talk about your strategy and tactics ideas.
Right. And there may be a difference between our perspective if you're looking more of a sales person's individual role, and I'm looking at a little bit more of a company sales channel when it comes to the marketplace. And I'm a fan of Frank Cespedes. We had him on the show last month, and
Frank talks from the sales manager standpoint.
Yeah, and his previous book was on strategy. So looking at some of his stuff, I think he's got some great information on strategy. And he defines strategy as the fundamental movement of an organization from its present position to a desirable but inherently uncertain future position. The path from here to there is both analytical, and one of the examples is a value proposition, because the value proposition changes and we have to analyze that consistently, and then behavioral, which it comes to the sales task, which are what are the salespeople carrying out within the marketplace. It also includes which customers you will not serve, what services you will not provide, and what activities and sales in other areas that you will not invest in. So it also talks about who you're not going to work with, who is not a good fit, who is not a perfect fit, who does not represent the strategy of the company, and including the profit margin that the company has. So sometimes when we end up working outside of our strategy or outside of our perfect fit, it ends up costing the company more money.
When I was in my younger days in sales, I don't think we ever had this conversation as a sales team. We never sat down and said, who's our customer? What are we really selling? We just went out there and made phone calls and talked to people and threw mud against the wall. And there was no real strategy. Our owner, one of the owners, he was an accountant. So he just looked at the numbers, and we never talked about what is the strategic goal of the organization and who should we be talking to.
Yeah. And I think when a sales team does not have a good strategy and good leadership to be able to define the strategy and communicate the strategy to the sales team, salespeople can get into conversations that are frustrating, long sales cycles, low closing ratios. That can have a direct impact on our attitude. And
customers that are a big pain in the butt because they don't like what we like. I talk about, don't talk to customers who don't value what you value, or you're just buying trouble.
Yeah. So if you're frustrated, are you talking to people that are good fits for you? Are they good prospects for you? Are you good? And when you have good conversations, and which ones end up making you feel better. And when you're not feeling good about a conversation, is it possible that you're just not talking to a good fit? You're talking to a misfit.
Right.
And we're emotional people. Salespeople are very emotional. And
I cry a lot.
Our brains are very, emotional versus rational.
Oh, okay.
And we know that. We know. Okay,
that. I don't cry. I don't cry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me talk a little bit about from the salesperson standpoint. So if your company isn't doing this for you, if you don't feel you have a strategy, that doesn't mean that you as a salesperson cannot develop a strategy on your own.
True.
And here's what I think is the best way to at least get the strategy started about who should I talk to. Look at your best customers and find out why they buy, what they buy, why they continue to do business with you, and why they value the relationship. If you can look at your 4 or 5 best customers and have some good conversations with them, or at least even analyze the sales that you've had with those good customers, then you're going to be able to start to figure out, my goodness, I should be talking to this kind of person or this type of company or this size of company because they really are a good fit with our product or service. So one of the things I look at for the types of buyers, I look at who buys, and I think there's economic buyers, they buy for the value. There's technical buyers, they buy for I want the best solution. And then there's the end user buyers or the influencers who end up buying for the ease. What's going to make my life easiest to get things accomplished and make things better for me on a day-to-day basis. So as you're starting to analyze who buys from you, start to analyze what kind of buyers buy best from you or how you're going to have that conversation with those buyers. So what are the titles? So maybe I sell to sales managers, divisional sales leaders, directors of sales and marketing. Those are the different people that I sell to. So what do they care about? What problems are they facing? How can our solutions ease their frustration? And what's the dollar value of our solution? So that's kind of my setup for a salesperson, thinking through who they want to talk to, and then those are the values, those are the things that dictate who I'm going to go after as a client.
Yeah. And I've got a few questions to think about, and salespeople have to answer it in their own mind or work with sales leadership. And if you're in sales leadership, I think you need to figure out some of the answers within the people within the company so that you can actively communicate what the strategy is of the sales team and lead the sales team to the best fit prospect through the strategy. So
I
one
think
question.
also as an individual salesperson, you should be trying to demand this of your sales leadership. I
Yeah.
wish I had known these things, because I would have asked my sales manager, my owner, let's sit down as a group and decide some of these things. I don't know enough. So maybe as a group of 5 or 6 salespeople, we can come up with a strategy. But I didn't even think about a strategy. I just
Mhm.
went out and, made a lot of phone calls.
Yeah. And if you're a salesperson in transition and you're interviewing with a company, I think a great question to ask the people that you're interviewing with is, could you give me kind of a description of what the sales strategy is here? What is the
That'll throw
strategy for the
most of them
company?
off.
Well, it might throw them off, but they might be really impressed going,
Yeah,
oh, really?
absolutely.
Oh, that's really good. I mean, I'm really glad you're taking an interest in that, because that's what we really want our salespeople to do, is go out and fulfill the
Even if we
strategy of
don't
the
know what
company.
it is, we want them to have a strategy.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
the
that's
first
good.
question we have to really ask ourselves is, what is the strategic goals of the organization, the company, the sales channel? And we need to think about customer value goals and also financial value. So the customer value is, does our solution end up meeting the needs of the customer that we're selling to? And does it financially make sense for them to pay a price to reduce a cost or generate a benefit in the future when they end up buying from us? So we need to
Yeah.
think about both of them.
What's the ROI, right? What's the
Yeah,
return on investment of this solution?
exactly. I think a good question to also ask is, where will we play? Who will we sell to? Who is our perfect universe? In marketing, they always talk about defining your universe. In strategy, we need to define our universe. What are 3 attributes that define our universe, our perfect fit universe, as to where we're going to play and where we're going to sell?
Yep.
Another question to ask is, how will we win in this chosen segment? How will we compete with somebody and be the preferred supplier, preferred vendor, and be able to shorten the sales cycle, concentrate on our strengths, and be able to close more deals in a short period of time?
More and more successful organizations that I've been working with are segmenting their sales team into different silos so that they can develop some expertise. So rather than a territory where I have to be the expert to everything, because of our larger reach through technology, I can work with a larger territory, but I can become more specialized. And I think the segmentation can be very important in being more successful as an organization.
Yeah, yeah, so true. Another question to ask is, what capabilities must be in place for us to win? Right now, supply is a big challenge in the marketplace. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
car manufacturers have stopped producing cars because of the chips not being available. I mean, incredible. Lumber, the price of lumber is going through the roof. Supply chain demand is going up, but the supply is low. So, what are we going to have to be able to provide? What capabilities must be in place for us to win when
Yep,
it comes to a situation like that? And that's all
absolutely.
part of our strategy.
Yeah, I think we're seeing the results of shutting down an economy for even a
Oh,
matter of months,
man,
much less a year. So,
just the
uh,
repercussions.
yeah, and I think it's the inflation factor is not gonna stop. So, if you have a rare product, what are you going to do? How are you going to get it to your clients?
Yeah. And the last question is, what performance management systems are required? So what are we going to measure? If we can't measure it, we can't manage it. What are some of the metrics that we're going to look at when it comes to leading the strategy and managing the strategy and making the alterations along the way? Because again, strategy is taking an organization from now to an undesirable but inherent uncertain future position. And that's why strategy needs to constantly be assessed and redirected.
Yeah, I think one of your early things was to talk about value proposition as
Mm-hmm.
part of Frank Cespedes' definition.
Yeah.
And I don't think we talk enough about what is our value proposition? How is it changing? Where are we unique in the marketplace? I know that we never talked about that in my early sales days. And because I'm out on my own, I just have to kind of think about it on my own. But with a sales team, we should really try to figure out very strongly what is our value for the clients, and how can we find organizations that value the same things that we value. Sales is much easier if we don't have to convince them that our value proposition is unique or something that they want. If they're already looking for what we have, then it's a much easier sale. So I think that's a lot of what the strategy is about. How can I clean out the dead wood, save myself the time of trying to prospect people that won't buy, and get myself more focused on organizations that value what we have to offer?
I want to submit a name of a company that everybody can think of and they can apply strategy to it. The name of the company is Xerox. How has Xerox changed over the last 30 years? 30 years ago, people were making copies and these Xerox machines were selling out the door. Did they ever think about the personal computer and think about people printing stuff off at their desk? Did they adapt to the marketplace? Did they have a strategy that adjusted, or did another company come on into the marketplace? HP, all of a sudden they show up and now they're doing desk printers and people are making copies from their desktop printers.
Yeah, it's funny. You mentioned those two companies. I have a very good friend of mine that was very successful salesperson for Xerox. He's now with HP.
Wow. I didn't know that. But think about the strategy of Xerox. Think about the strategy of Kodak. I mean, here's an organization that invented the digital camera. How are they doing today? Mm-hmm. Think about Blockbuster. What happened there? So I want to introduce three questions. So I want to bring up three questions that salespeople need to really think about. Mm-hmm. Is salespeople are selling, but are they selling across product lines the way that the strategy and the market realities require?
Right.
These are the objectives. Are we selling different products within the same channel, the same company, or are we diversifying our products and we're selling different products to different companies? So right. we got to be able to have certain objectives that we reach and not just sell one product to everybody if we have an expanded product line. Another question is salespeople are selling, but are they allocating their time and efforts to the right activities at the right proportions? So now we're looking at focusing on our tasks, our behavior, our activities that we're doing every single day. And the last one is salespeople are selling, but do they have the skills, capabilities, and motivation to sell on criteria other than price? So this gets into sales skills. Are we really working with salespeople on understanding the belief that they deliver value by learning the questions to ask to uncover the cost, consequences, and risks if a prospect does not buy from us today?
Right. And if we don't sit around and talk about what our value proposition is, then we're going to sell on price.
Exactly.
Because we don't know what else to sell on.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to the rest of this series. So we're only on part 1, strategies. We have many more to go. So I do have a resource. It's a video called What is the Goal? And we'll link to that on winningatselling.com. This segment of Winning at Selling podcast is brought to you by The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Getting in the Door by Steve Kloida. Steve Kloida was known internationally for increasing salespeople's ability to make solid appointments with qualified prospects. You too can learn this essential skill by ordering a copy of his superb book, The Art of Prospecting, Your Guide to Getting in the Door. In this book, Steve shares the top strategies and tactics he has developed, implemented, and personally tested with more than 1 million sales and prospecting calls. You can get his book on the website, theprospectingexpert.com. In addition, check out his other great online resources. Instant Sales Coaching, which will guide you through 5 online success modules. A guided prospecting process entitled Call Reluctance Transformer, and the Magnetic Selling Strategies Workbook, a detailed step-by-step guide to increasing your sales. Get any of these valuable resources at theprospectingexpert.com.
So our golden nugget today is from one of my favorite philosophers, Blaise Pascal, who was a philosopher, a mathematician, and a Catholic theologian. And the quote is, "Justice without force is powerless, and force without justice is tyrannical." Tyranny.
That's right.
Wow. Sometimes we may be seeing that in our culture today. I don't know. You decide, listeners. You decide if you're seeing it or not.
Yeah, I think that we need to always be careful of what justice means. And I think that we've bastardized what the term justice means. We have this social justice thought process, which means, it means I give my money to you and you don't do anything. So I haven't figured that out. Salespeople don't like giving their money away. So I think we'll talk to a group that, I mean, you know what? I don't need the government to tell me I can give my money away. I can always do that on my own. So.
Are you paying taxes or making a donation?
There you go. Oh, no, we're making an investment now. We're making an investment. So,
all right. That's good advice.
All right. Well, let's, our closing contact, go to winningatselling.com. All of our information is going to be in the show notes there, links and important information about the future.
So next week, we're going to cover chapter 2 from the book, Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play. And the topic is on qualifying, an overview on qualifying. And ironically, it lines up perfectly with our sales process part 2, which is on qualifying. So
we really didn't plan that.
No, it just overlapped perfectly. That's right. So it'll be a good discussion on qualifying.
Go out and get better one skill at a time.
Joyful selling.